When you are choosing all of the hardware for your gaming PC build, I would suggest that the very third piece of hardware you choose is the motherboard, with the processor being your first choice. The reasoning behind this is that once you choose the processor, you then are able to select all of the compatible motherboards based on the specific processor socket type. Then you can select all of the other options you want to be included on your motherboard. And given that you are most likely building your gaming PC to play specific games, you may want to maximize your budget towards performance, the two main performance-driving pieces of hardware being the processor and graphics card. Terms you should know: for a gaming motherboard, CPU socket type. This is the socket type for the type of processor you have chosen. Each type of processor has a unique type of socket type, shape, that will fit into a motherboard. So you must make sure you choose the right motherboard socket type to fit your processor. In modern gaming PCs, however, there are now some newer designs that still are designed to work with specific processors and sockets, but there are differences as the functionalities are built directly into the CPU itself, instead of two separate chipsets. What all of this means to you is that you should familiarize yourself with what a specific chipset is for a specific motherboard. You can do this by choosing the right motherboard for you based on what chipset you need for the processor you've chosen, then by simply searching Google that chipset name to familiarize yourself with what that particular chipset includes or allows you to do, overclocking, etc. Memory, as in how much and what type of memory your motherboard supports. A specific motherboard will support a certain number of memory slots, the numbers of pins your memory must have, the type of memory, X. DDR4 or DDR3, maximum amount of memory supported, X. 32 GB, and the channel supported, X. Dual channel memory. In this case, it is best to install memory in pairs like 2 sticks of 2 GB memory sticks. Expansion slots. Most modern motherboards will come with any different number of expansion slots. These generally include a number of PCI Express 4.0 or 3.0. You should pick your motherboard based on what peripherals you expect to be using with your gaming PC and what you may want to add in the future. This includes graphics cards. Most now use PCI Express 3.0 and are now venturing into 4.0, USB ports, such as USB 3.1 version 1 and version 2, Ethernet, SATA, 6 gigabits per second, and so on. Since we are interested in building gaming PCs, the suggestion is to always have room for a graphics card or two for either SLI or Crossfire capabilities, dual graphics card configurations, which can help boost graphics performance in the future should you decide to. Storage devices. What storage devices does the motherboard support? Desktop motherboards will generally support a number of storage device connectors like SATA 3, serial ATA, or M.2 connectors, faster port, to connect solid-state drives or hard drives. This will be important to know what types and how many of each the motherboard supports so you can then purchase the storage devices compatible with the board. Usually, you do not have to pay too close attention to the number of drives a motherboard supports if you are purchasing one storage device, but if you want multiples you may want to check to see if you can. The most modern motherboard will have numerous SATA connections though. Onboard audio. Nowadays motherboards generally will come with great onboard audio, which means you do not have to purchase an external sound card in order to have audio, never mind quality audio. If you are concerned about the quality of audio your motherboard, you can do some research on the motherboard audio chipset to get a better understanding of what type of audio quality to expect. With many modern motherboards, you can expect them to easily support up to 7.1 surround sound. For those of you that are more the audiophile types, then you can definitely look into purchasing dedicated sound cards, but it's not needed for building a gaming PC. Onboard LAN. Most motherboard will come with onboard LAN, Ethernet, installed on them so that you can easily connect to the internet. However, not all motherboards will come with a wireless option, so if this is a concern you may want to shop for wireless adapters to connect to your motherboard. Wireless adapters can either be a USB adapter or PCI wireless cards. Example of motherboard ports: rear panel ports. These will be the included ports with your motherboard such as USB, audio, PS2, optical and so on. There are other motherboard sizes, but for the sake of this article and most likely the purposes of most gaming PC builders, you should know those three. Yes, I will always start with the budget as the number one thing to do when purchasing and choosing your gaming PC hardware. Why? Because I have found that when you are searching for a bunch of different hardware pieces that will fit your gaming PC needs, you may start off by choosing the top of the line processor, and then slowly find out that after the seventh piece of hardware, processor, motherboard, memory, graphics card, etc. that you have spent way too much and may have a ton of additional and unnecessary included features you'll never use. Go with a mid-range motherboard if you have to. Choose a motherboard that has just the right amount of peripheral support and not more than what you need. This way you will not overspend and you will have more money to spend on your other performance-driven hardware. As long as it supports your main performance pieces or hardware, you're good to go. Step 2. Make sure everything will fit. Hopefully, you have first chosen your processor, but also make sure you have chosen a motherboard that will fit the socket type for that processor. Then go through everything else you may need, such as at least one PCI Express slot for at least one graphics card, or 2 slots for 2 cards, enough USB ports for externals like mice, keyboards and headsets, and make sure there are enough memory slots for the amount of memory you may need to play specific games. Lastly, take a look at the form factors of your motherboard. This will be the actual physical size of the board, which are generally standardized, example, ATX or micro ATX. You will want to know this so that you can fit it into a specific computer case you purchase. Step 3. Future-proof. Don't just think about the precise amount of connectors, memory, graphics card you need this second. Think about what you may need in 4 months from now when you want to play that awesome new PC game you have been waiting forever to play. For example, if you know you only need 4 GB of memory to play StarCraft 2 right now, you may want the ability to pump it up to 8 GB, 16 GB or even 32 GB in the future. This way you can always add more memory later. The same goes for PCI Express slots for graphics cards. Perhaps you want to add in 2 graphics cards via SLI or Crossfire, or SATA ports for more hard drive space, or even M.2 ports for those fast storage solutions. Final words, for choosing your gaming PC motherboard, I hope that you have learned something about choosing a new motherboard for your gaming PC build. It is of my opinion that choosing the motherboard is the hardest part of any PC build, as there are so many factors to look for and keep track of when shopping for a new motherboard. I guess this makes sense as the motherboard is responsible for connecting and running all of the crucial components of your computer.